been wanting to make a video about unknown bands that influence the mainstream for a while. On my channel, I've talked about some indie rock bands in the past, bands that are favorites of mine, like Swerve Driver, for example, where I've interviewed the singer, Adam Franklin, made videos about them, or made a video about them a couple years ago, but I haven't really done anything lately. You guys know that I do a lot of contemporary music and things like that, and a lot of historic music on here, but of well-known artists, and I don't really give enough time to indie artists. When I talk about underground bands that were influential, I think of Velvet Underground, Wire, Pavement, the Pixies, Swerve Driver, My Bloody Valentine, Big Star, Television. A lot of bands that historically were really important and influenced bands that end up becoming huge bands, whether it's the Pixies, then Nirvana, or REM and Nirvana, or the bands that influence those bands, the bands that influence bands like REM. And the passing of the drummer and singer Mimi Parker of the band Low this weekend made me want to visit some of their music and talk about them as a tribute. I've been a fan of the band for years and years. Their type of music is described as slowcore. Slowcore is indie rock, slow tempos, breathy vocals. They have kind of dissonant, beautiful chords in them, very dreamy. Slow tempos, though. That's the whole thing about slowcore. Or dream pop is another way you could describe their music, which is really like shoegaze music. Dream pop and shoegaze, although I wouldn't say Swerve Driver is a dream pop band because they're a rock band, but that's the thing, that have these bands that have these beautiful sonic palettes that they use, or sonic youth, that they use interesting open tunings with beautiful distortion, things like that. Let me play you some. Mimi was the drummer and singer of the band, along with her husband, Alan Sparhawk. And when I heard that Mimi passed away this past weekend, I had heard that she had cancer, and I went back and looked for an article. She had done an interview in 2020 when she talked about her diagnosis. And this is a quote from her. It says, "I think it's important to, when people get a diagnosis, some people have the tendency to ask, why me?" Parker said at the time, "I never had that. I was always like, why not? We're all subject to the same random this and that happens." And she continued, "Our time can be cut short, and what do we do with that time that we have? We try to make each day mean something." And I would say that's a really sober and profound way to look at things. I want to play you some of their music. They have records dating back to the 90s. You can find it on Spotify. I love that progression. It already has this melancholy vibe.
You try to sleep, 'cause there's never try to sleep, then you never wake up. Inside the dream, you take a step.
I love that melancholy sound of the progression, the sad harmonies. So
try to sleep, don't look at the camera.
That's Try to Sleep. That record is a great record. Came out in 2011. I think Steve Albini produced it. Their first big record came out in 1994. It's called I Could Live in Hope. And there's a song called Lullaby on there that's one of their biggest songs on Spotify, but listen a little bit.
Be soft, don't be stern. Was not supposed
You notice those dissonant chord voicings? This is really part of this slowcore. Slow tempo. Once again, dreamy
I
vocal.
sang the words I meant.
Love the echo.
I sang.
If you want to get into a vibe, this is why I'm such a fan. I love indie rock. I love things that are sonically rich, that have dissonant chords. You guys know that. I always talk about that. I'm always talking about the kind of guitar work, for example, in this. And this is why I like bands like My Bloody Valentine, Swerve Driver. I love things that have dissonances. And Low is a band that Alan's guitar work is just beautiful. He comes up with these great chord progressions, and they always have these melancholy, dissonant kind of guitar parts like that. Now, through the years, their sound changed. They have a record that came out in 2021, and it's called Hey What. This is a song called More. It's a really great guitar sound. Check it out.
I gave more than what I should have lost. I paid more than what it would have cost. You had some of what I could have had.
Beautiful.
I want all of what I didn't have.
I love those heavy guitars there. It sounds like the guitar has a pog on it or something, has an octaver that goes with it. It's heavily distorted, but once again, it has this beautiful sound that's got, when it gates, it cuts right off like that, but it has this kind of sonic energy that to me is just really beautiful. It has a beautiful distortion, right? And then this ethereal melody that Mimi is singing over. It's just great.
More than what they ever taught. They thought
You hear that real sub bass there? It sounds massive on the low end. When I was going through some old videos of theirs, I found a Tiny Desk performance from 2011 that I had never seen before. I think that they actually had just put it on YouTube a couple years ago. I think it's only 3 songs. I think Try to Sleep is definitely one of them that I played earlier. She and Alan were married and lived in Duluth, Minnesota, where they're from. There's some cool interviews with them on YouTube that I was looking at when I was going back through, and I wanted to see if there was anything from them recently. But Robert Plant did a dedication to the band this past weekend after he heard the news, and I thought it was really important to mention. That's the band Low. Go check them out on Spotify, Apple Music. Go buy their LPs, and want to dedicate this to Mimi Parker. Thanks for watching.